Hi again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Around the Town with Chuck. My name is Chuck Guglielmo, a weekly interview show where we talk with interesting people in the community. And we want to welcome back Lori Riley as my guest, Conneaut Area City School Superintendent. Hello, Lori.
Good afternoon.
Hello,
Good
Lori.
morning.
Hello, Lori. I'm off to a good start. How are you today?
I'm well.
Good.
Snow day today.
Snow day today. And let's last time we had you on, of course, you were new, so you got a little bit more than half the year going on so far. So tell us how the first half of the year has gone as far as expectations and challenges.
I'm extremely pleased with how well the first half of the year has been going. I'm trying to get out to the buildings as much as possible, be in the community as much as possible, getting to build those relationships. There's a lot of good instruction going on in our classrooms. Of course, making the transition to District 10. We had a very successful football season. Winter sports right now, wrestling and boys and girls basketball. We're learning, it's first time through with all of these teams. So it's a first look at every District 10 team that we're playing. So I see a lot of improvement as the years go on. Having attended a District 10 school, there's some pretty storied basketball programs out there, and that's what we're competing with right now. We have just had our 6th snow day. We had a very successful 2-hour delay last week when the power went out, which was an opportunity for us to try the 2-hour delay and see how it worked. And we understand the impact it has on working parents, but we were able to get the kids into school, fed, and then a lot of instruction that day as well. So I can't believe a half of a year has passed already. It's been quick.
It is amazing. Two things I want to touch on that
Sure.
you just talked about. One, the 2-hour delay. If there ever, I think we all agree that nobody likes that because it's disruptive, but if there was ever a classic example of why you would have a 2-hour delay, it would be with that power outage, wouldn't it?
Right.
So did you have to contact them to see if it would be on like around 9 o'clock?
Well, my first phone call came in at 3:30 in the morning to let me know that we didn't have power, and that the power company said 6:30. So we knew approximately that time power would be back on. We could go ahead and open school. The weather hadn't been cold, so I wasn't worried about the buildings being very cold. If they had been out of power since about 3 o'clock, they weren't going to be freezing cold. So we were going to bring kids into relatively warm buildings, and I didn't have to worry about the weather outside. So it really was a great dry run or classic example of trying it. Throughout the morning from 3:30 till about 6 o'clock, I was getting various time changes as to when it could come on, and by 7:30, once I call the 2-hour delay at 6, by 7:30 then you have to either decide to open or close.
Oh, okay.
There's
so you have to make
some
a
pretty
final
set,
decision.
yeah, at 6 o'clock I have to either decide close or 2-hour delay. By 7:30 either close or close for good at that point or go ahead and go. So Jim Hockaday and I were talking back and forth. And right about 7:21, we were confident that the power would be back. So I had about 9 minutes to spare, but we felt it was nice because I met with the administrative team the next day. We had a planned meeting, so we debriefed good and bad points about how the day went. And I'm going to be formulating a letter to send home to parents so they know exactly times for each building should we have to do this again.
So your first building to open would be the middle school?
The high school and the middle
the high school, they
Mm-hmm.
open at the same time, so that would be like what, around 9:30?
On the 2-hour delay, it was about 9:15, 9:30, yeah.
So now how does that work when they start that? Do they start right from where they would start at homeroom, or do they go to wherever they're supposed to be at 9:30?
Well, with the high school and the junior high, because they're on periods, what they did was just shorten the periods. So everybody saw every class as normal, but with less time. The elementary school and the primary school kind of picked up where they would have because those kids are very much used to a routine. We had to make just a slight adjustment on a couple lunches, but our food service staff did a great job getting food to the buildings on time, and you end at normal time. So you try to keep it as normal as possible because you don't want to lose the whole instructional day.
Sure. Now, how does it work with the bus drivers? Like, when would they start then?
They start their routes about 2 hours from
So
when
everybody's
everyone's on a
2 hour.
2-hour. So that even means, and that's important for parents to know, even building administrative assistants, there's nobody to answer the phone till about 2 hours later. Everything just shifts 2 hours. Now, when the state of Ohio moved from number of days to number of hours, instead of losing a whole instructional 8-hour day, we only lost a 2-hour day. So those are still hours that are penalized against us, but it's not a full day, then it's just the 2 hours. So now that we've lost 6 snow days, that extra day kind of comes in handy to have those 6 hours.
Sure does, but again, a classic example of why you would
Right.
need to use a 2-hour delay, even though nobody likes them.
Right, and we understand. I'm a working parent, and I know what it is to have to make adjustments for your kids. That's why even on weather days, today might have been a good 2-hour delay too, because it's when the snow hits. 5 o'clock this morning, we were ready to roll. 5:30, the snow started coming in across the lake, and again, I only have a limited amount of time to make that call, and you have to make that call based on what's best for students and safety, and it has to be at that time. You can't think that in 4 hours it's going to be better, because we've got to get the kids on the road now.
I think all the county schools were up.
Yeah, they slowly started working pretty much west to east. Lake County was closed, so there is communication among superintendents in the morning, but you make the call for your own district based on what's best for your kids.
I learned something, staying on the topic of calamity days. I saw in the paper that the teachers would have to go if it's an extreme cold or wind day after 5 days. Is that something that just developed, or did they know about this?
From what I understand, that was new language in their contracts. So again, they have a number of days that they have to work. They are reported by days as far as tracking. The school reports to the state for students hours. So if today was just a very cold day and it wasn't safe to put kids out in the cold, we're adults, it's okay for us to come out in the cold, we would have had them report. If it's a weather closure, then it's closed for them as well. So what we'll have to do now is make up this day on the end. After 5 days, for students, we will have to make this day up.
Oh, this will be a makeup day. Oh, okay. So it's no longer by hours?
It is by hours, but I believe we contractually have about 3 days that we're going to, because of the hours built in. There are hours built in, so you can have some snow days. Okay. But you still have to make up some on the end. So we will look at all of that, and then you send a letter home once we have to start making that up
So you
with
sit
kids.
down and decide when that makeup day is going to be, and is that usually at the end of the year? Would you hook it onto a spring break?
I believe in their calendar that went home, there are some designated makeup days already in the calendar that could be canceled. And I don't want to say 100% for certain, but I believe President's Day might have been one of those days that they were notified on the school calendar. This being the 6th day, I haven't really dug into that yet, but it is something we'll have to communicate shortly, because we're coming on February in a couple days.
I know. Another snowstorm coming tonight, so you're going to have to be up early in the morning again.
I was talking about that this morning. The newscasters do not make it easy for us to do our jobs. They were already saying, well, we anticipate more school closures tomorrow. And you have to wait and see. It's just a whole science. So
do you sometimes feel like you're like a referee in a game, because if you open, you're going to have people complain, and then if you close, you're going to have people complain.
That's the first thing. When I took my first superintendent's class, that's the first thing they tell you is you're never going to make the everyone happy on a snow day, on a calamity day, but you always make the decision that's best for kids. And it comes down to, I have a teenager who will be driving soon. Would I want my kid driving in this? Do we want our teenagers here driving in it? We're putting our bus drivers on the road, their safety, the safety of all the kids in the buses. So it comes down to, again, in that limited amount of time, is it safe to put kids on the road? And you have to make the call based on that.
Let's use today as an example.
Sure.
Now, I know the Conneaut girls were scheduled to play at Mercyhurst Prep tonight. I understand the game has been canceled.
Yes.
Now, even though they're open, we still can't play that game?
Yes, it's based on what we do during the day. In the morning, if we're closed, most of the time that all after school activities, home and away, are canceled. There have been some times in the past, depending on what the event is, if it's a tournament, and like today the weather cleared, And if it was a tournament game, we could have put buses on the road, but usually the rule of thumb is if it's school's closed, all after-school activities are off as well.
And the opposition's okay with that, I take it?
Yes. And then say the problem with the District 10 League is they don't call a lot of snow days in Pennsylvania. So the chances of them being open are greater. The boys also had Oil City coming up, so we had to cancel that game as well.
For wrestling tonight. That would have been at
home. Yes.
That one's at home. Very interesting. Like I say, I think you're going to be up early again in the morning.
You know, and it's funny because, you know, having done this as the assistant in another district, but now it falling on my shoulders, you know, it's like a control room in my office at home in the morning because I've got, you know, the TV on, one computer set ready to make the automated call, one computer set ready to put all the TV stations on, and you know, then everyone in the house wakes up because the phone's ringing, you're talking. But it's about an hour-long process, you know, texting back and forth. So because you want to make the right, you try to make the right call,
right.
And you know it's not going to, but you try to make that call, and you want as much information as you can before you make it.
So we only got about 2 more months to go with this. Maybe even into early April, the way the weather is around here.
Normally, we have a day during, it's always the coldest of the year during Martin Luther King week, and that's when it was warm this past year. But, you know, historically, we're always off a day around that time, and we pass through that, but now we're coming into February, so.
Also,
see what the groundhog says on Thursday.
Yeah, really. Well, the sun's supposed to be out Thursday,
Yes.
So.
I could sleep that day.
Also, in your opening statement, you mentioned a little bit about District 10. How is the relationship with those schools? How's that going?
Joel Taylor has been attending a lot of District 10 meetings. Again, growing up with District 10, having played there, I have some relationships with some people there, so it's a nice familiarity for me. We had some very positive comments from parents coming to us from the first time. Joel has received some emails letting us know that, you know, they enjoy coming here. We played Villa Maria. The girls played Villa Maria last week, and our pep band was there, and got a lot of positive comments from the parents about the pep band being at the basketball game. So I feel that it's a win-win for both of us. And we've really started to develop those relationships, so it can only get better from here. Like I said, it's the first look for us, so we're playing some of these teams for the very first time, and as we understand their programs and how they run things, it's just going to get better for us. But everyone has to understand this is all new to us because we're facing some teams that we're playing for the first time ever. So and again, you know, teams like Mercyhurst Villa, they have some pretty long-standing basketball programs, so it's just going to take some time to develop ours to that level.
Talking with Lori Riley, County Area City School Superintendent. Lori, let's talk a little bit about school enrollment now.
Okay.
In each of the buildings, what's the enrollment like?
I don't have the figures in front of me. We're about 1,700 district-wide. I want to say we're up, the last count I had on January 1st, we were up about a dozen more from last year.
Oh,
so, you know, that fluctuates every month. So, you know, it's pretty steady, but it's declining because of the population in Conneaut. You know, we're not having young families move, or the enrollment is not growing. So we kind of know this is about where we're going to be for a while.
Do you know which building has the most in Conneaut?
You would ask me that. I know Lakeshore has a lot of students. You would think the high school has a lot, but because we have so many students that support ATEC, our juniors and seniors that go there, so the building wide, it's not as heavy as you would think it would be. But Gateway and Lakeshore, for our smallest age students, have probably the biggest populations.
How about the open enrollment now? How many did we lose? How many did we gain?
We're pretty even here. So for almost as many as we have leaving, we have coming in. So that's we're pretty even keel. We're not losing a lot of money going out because we have the money coming in. So we're about a wash with open enrollment as far as that concerns, but I don't have the exact numbers.
Do you ever get any feedback as to why they leave or as to why they come?
No, but it would be something I would want to know.
I would want to know that too.
We just picked up a few, it's the line of between Conneaut and Buckeye. They have a Conneaut address, but they may, open a road to Buckeye. The nice thing with where Conneaut is located is we can't lose any to the east. So there's no district, after, nothing to the north. So we're only really looking at 2 districts to the west and the south. So the nice thing is we don't have the north and the east to lose districts to. Sometimes it's where parents work. So they may be working in Conneaut, they'll bring their kids in, or they may be driving somewhere else and they bring their kids out. It's parent choice, but until we get school funding figured out in the state of Ohio, it does take money away from districts.
Does sports play into it?
Well, there's pretty set rules on having to sit out or where
That's
you
what
live.
Tim was telling us.
Yeah, so it shouldn't play a huge role in it because it does impact eligibility. So a lot of times it's when they leave. And then, if they leave at, like, say, as an 8th grader because they want to play in 9th grade, then you've lost them for those 4 years.
I think you're about ready to start the parent-teacher conferences for the second
next week.
semester.
Yes.
How did that go in the first semester, and what are you expecting here in the second go-round?
We would love to have the parents come out. This is the time of year, I just had an administrative meeting, and I told the principals, even though we're halfway through this year, this is now the time that we start talking about next year. So our high school, our junior high, we're talking about schedules for next year, classes for next year, starting and ending times for next year. I have the Ohio Department of Transportation's coming in next week to do an efficiency study to see our routing. And so we're already thinking ahead to next year, and that's why parent-teacher conferences in the spring are important. If there's concerns about your students' grades and their ability to move on to the next grade, these are the conversations you want to have with parents now, or with teachers now. How your student is going to fare academically for graduation requirements, credits. Even our high school parents need to have those conversations because we want them to know exactly where their student stands. We don't want there to be any surprises. So we don't want there to be any surprises when it's 2 weeks away from graduation. We don't want there to be any surprises with kindergartners and are they ready to move on to 1st grade. So we need to have these conversations in the spring so that adjustments from both parents, students, and teachers can be done to make sure that we have successful transitions in the fall. So they are important, and we would like parents to come out. And, they're the 7th and then the 9th, I believe.
If I remember correctly, on the elementary level, they schedule their conferences, and then
Yes.
on the high school level,
They have
it's
them in
come
the-
as you come.
Yes,
come as you come.
that was something
Come as
different
you
for
go.
me. I observed the last go around of conferences, and that's what they were in the cafeteria. And you can go around, and they have little name tags and meet up with your students' teachers. And but it's important. It's important to have that parent-school partnership and to be involved with what's going on.
And you make yourself available during the conferences?
I try to get around, yes. Sometimes I have committee meetings, board meetings for other,
Sure.
but as of now, I believe I'll be around.
When you're around, do you ever get questioned by a parent or anything?
No, they're really here to see the teachers.
I hear you.
They hear enough from me these past 6 snow days.
I read something in the paper the other day, Lori, about a library summer reading program that you're getting involved in. You
Yes.
want to talk a little bit to us
Well,
about
here at the
that.
library, they do their annual summer reading program, which I was telling them at the board meeting, I still have, my first summer reading was the Bicentennial in 1976. And my mom had saved, we had stickers, and I had Liberty Bell stickers of all the books that I had read as a 6-year-old. So that was my first experience of summer reading, and participated. I have my own daughter participate in summer reading at the library. So critical that our students continue to read and learn and grow in the summer when we're not with them. So the Conneaut Library has applied for a grant in addition to their summer reading. So it's not going to impact summer reading, but it's going to enhance their summer reading program. And what they're planning on doing is using our buses on a Saturday that they will take parents and students around to different historical sites in Conneaut.
Oh, that's great.
So we're
That's
hoping they get
wonderful.
the grant because our buses and drivers they asked for 2, are going to be available that day.
Outstanding.
So it's a great partnership. But it will not impact whether or not there will be summer reading here, but it's a nice way to enhance and kick off a summer reading program.
And this is for elementary?
I think it's for anybody, any age level that wants to learn about Conneaut. I think I will be there because there's a lot of places here I need to know about in the community.
We've got a levy coming up.
We do.
It was hard to imagine that. We haven't had a levy since 2009.
Well, the information I have, the last time voters passed an operating levy was in November of 2000, and that was only a 5-year collection. The year I'm hearing was 1984, the last time new monies were passed. So
That is a long
that's a very long
time.
time. And then in 2000, a 5-year collection. So we're looking 17 years later for that same support. We are continuing to make reductions on our end, but we're going to need to increase revenue as well. But it's going to take a give and take from both. Has to be a balance between the two. The board recognizes that we're going to continue to revisit our expenditures to make good business sense decisions and to be good stewards of the community money. But an increase in revenue is also going to be necessary to operate.
And this will be a 5 mils over 5 years?
It's an emergency levy, which is a set dollar amount, and that's $1,029,652. It works out to roughly about 5 mils. So yes, if you're used to the millage, it's about 5 mils. It's a little over $1 million. And then we are going to do what we need to do to revisit expenditures to make sure that we have a balanced line item for them.
And you've already started on reductions, what, $460,000?
Phase 1, most of it was current retirements and not filling most of those positions. And we're looking at working some things on a Phase 2 and a Phase 3, which will probably be presented to the board in February.
Now this is being called an emergency levy. What's the difference between an emergency levy and an operating levy?
Well, the emergency tax, it's the emergency tax levy, which the funds generated are still for operating. But it's the dollar amount and it's the set amount of time. It'll be a 5-year, approximately 5 mils, and it's to generate that money for the schools to operate. That's why it's an emergency.
And the good thing is it'll be on the May 2 ballot, and I don't believe there are any other levies that are going to be on
As
that
of
ballot.
now, it's all us, so it will be the levy on May 2nd.
And very important, I know, is trying to put together a levy committee.
Yes, so anybody that wants
Talk
to,
to us a little bit, say if I wanted to be on the levy committee, what are some of the things I'll be doing?
well, we haven't had our first meeting yet, and there'll be a levy chair, and it won't be me. I'll be on the levy committee, but they will have a levy chair, and we will take our lead from them. And it's getting the word out. It's talking to your neighbors, talking to your friends, your coworkers, just communicating the need, the necessity, and how we can continue to support the schools that are part of this community.
And anybody can be on this?
Anybody can be on it. You don't have to have kids in the district. You just have to want to support the schools. And my number is 593-7201. So if you're interested in being on the levy committee, give us a call and we'll sign you up.
Now, what about getting into the high school and making sure 18-year-old seniors are able to vote?
I believe I asked. I believe they are. They do that as part of either the social studies or the English curriculum. I did ask that to make sure that we do. I mean, whether there is a levy or not, you want to make sure your children and your students are signed up to vote. That's just patriotic citizenship. So that's done regardless of a levy or not. That's done seasonally, I believe.
So if it passes, that will create that $1 million or a little bit more than $1 million, right? Now, let's say for some chance it does not pass. Now what happens?
Well, that's why we're looking at expenditures. We have expenditures that we will have to make regardless of the levy passing or not. And there are additional expenditures we will have to make if the levy does not pass. The last thing we want to do is impact our students and their learning. So we try to make other reductions. The district, as you know, it was in the paper, is going through a performance audit. So we're looking at how efficient our operations are, and we'll be looking at recommendations and welcoming recommendations that may produce. In addition, the transportation audit to see if there's money that we could save on the transportation end through running efficient and effective routes. So that may generate some extra dollars. And it's the balance. It's what we have to reduce and increase revenue, or additional reductions if the revenue is not increased. So phase 3 is always what you don't want to have to do, but we'll have to do if the levy is not successful.
Let's close with this, Lori. There's been a lot of discussion in the newspapers lately about charter schools. What do you know about that?
We don't have any in the area. They're run as a business. They are run separate from the laws that govern public schools. So it's not even a fair comparison between a charter school and a public school. There's been a lot of controversy about releasing test scores. And so we're very happy that there aren't any in this particular area. Because really supporting your public schools with your tax dollars and additional grant funds, there's some great partnerships in the Conneaut community with the schools that helps to generate a few extra dollars. So just very thankful that there aren't those charter schools, because really the public school is the best way to educate your child.
Well, thanks for coming in,
Thank you
Lori.
for
Go
having
to
me.
bed early. Go to bed early tonight. 'Cause
Yes,
you're
well,
going to be up early
I thought
tomorrow.
last night, and then I got the alert that they had increased it went from advisory to warning. So then that's when my husband knows it's done.
Yeah,
I'm
especially
gonna be
you're
up
near
for a
the
while.
lake, I think.
Yes.
Yes. Well,
Thank
good luck
you.
with the levy.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks
We'll
for
probably
having me.
get you again at the end of the year and see how the whole year went.
Well, we'd
and
like to be
hopefully
back
by
before
then
the
we'll
levy,
know
yeah.
that levy is. Yes, we'll get
Sounds
you back
good.
before then too. Yes.
Sounds great.
Maybe during spring break or something.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks.
All right, thanks. Have a great day.
Yes, Lori Riley, my guest today on the Around the Town with Chuck, and we'll see you next week.